just how impressive was Golden State in this game to win over the Boston Celtics?
I mean, I thought it was a great show of how they made adjustments. I thought it was a good glimpse as to how Steve Kerr has this team rallied together, has this team focused and locked in. I mean, they always have that saying, "Dub Nation lock in" on Twitter. Like Steph Curry tweets that before every game, and I really thought that is kind of a big testament to what they did today, just because they were able to focus on the defensive end. They forced 18 turnovers on the Boston side. And the biggest point, man, the supporting cast for Boston that dominated and kind of led the run in the fourth quarter in game one, they were a no show today. Marcus Smart only had, I believe, 6 points, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, now my screen wants to freeze. No, he had 2 points. I'm giving him way too much credit. Marcus had two. Al Horford had two. Robert Williams had two. Jaylen Brown shot inefficient from the field with 17. Jason Tatum goes for 28. But I mean, honestly, outside of Tatum's 28 points, it was really, really a struggle for Boston to kind of get it going from the field today. I mean, as a team, they shot 37.5%. That is absolutely atrocious. It was just, it didn't look like the same team from game one. I don't know if they made a deal with the basketball gods and said, you know what, Jason needs to go out there and get his buckets, screw everybody else, or what. But no, it was absolutely incredible. The Warriors were just absolutely honed in on making sure that they held home court to at least some kind of decency. Obviously, they lost the advantage giving up game one, but they didn't want to go, down 0-2, heading back to, Beantown. And I thought that Golden State did a very good job. Steph hit shots. Obviously, like Clay had a very, very, very bad night. And then you go and you look at the supporting cast of the Warriors, and everybody kind of made some contributions. Wiggins had a little bit of an off night, 4 12. He had 11. Looney had 12. Klay Thompson had his 11 points. And then you look at the rest of the bench for the Warriors. Poole, like Kyle said, gives you 17. Gary Payton gives you 7. And, you just kind of look at the team and say, overall, this was a solid performance, but of course, it could be better. Um, Kyle and I have been talking about this pretty much all postseason, outside of maybe a couple of games. Klay Thompson's got to step it up, man. It's getting to the point where he's putting up shots, just like Mike said a couple of weeks ago. Excuse me. To where you look at it and you say, I don't think they need that shot, or that was kind of forced, or Klay, what the hell are you doing? And I understand that as Klay Thompson, you want to get into a rhythm, you want to shoot yourself out of a slump. Like they always say, shoot or shoot. But Klay Thompson needs to understand that sometimes the betterment of the team is you being that decoy running off of the screen. And like Draymond does so well, the fake handoff, that dribble drive penetration that he gets from the big switching to cover Klay or to double him to try to close out. Draymond's got a direct lane to the basket, and usually someone's got to step up and close the weak side. Someone's going to be open in the corner, and usually that help pass skips over, and maybe the ball swings back to Klay. I don't know, but the point is, Klay's got to understand he cannot continue to shoot in the manner that he does throughout the entirety of this series, because it could end up hurting the Warriors, because he didn't have the greatest game one either. And now we're looking at going into enemy territory. It's going to be tough for him to get into a rhythm there as well. We all know game 6 Klay is a thing, but I mean, if that's the only game you're going to pop off on in this entire series, I would say that there's worry for Golden State. But again, like I said, the biggest thing was that Golden State played solid defense. They had their big third quarter, and they limited the supporting cast to very minimal points and contributions on Boston's side. So I was telling Kyle as the game was going on, or kind of towards the game as it was ending, you know, give Jason Tatum his points. He's going to go after his 25 to 30. Let Jaylen do what he's got to do. He's going to go after his 20 points a game also. But as long as you minimize everybody else's contributions, then I think that they'll be fine going forward. But overall, happy to see Golden State kind of get back into their rhythm. They look to gain some confidence, and we'll see how it is for game 3.
I mean, Kevin, I'm with you on this one 100%. I thought Golden State, they needed this one in a big way after giving up that game one loss, which I thought they were in pretty much in full control of, except for the fourth quarter where Boston just shot the lights out and Golden State couldn't respond. But I like the fact that Golden State, even though like this game was kind of back and forth in the first half, they made great halftime adjustments. And that third quarter is when this entire game just blew wide open for Golden State. So, up until third quarter, really Boston and Golden State were in like this defensive battle. I mean, down low, it was just a battle between the bigs from Boston and the bigs from Golden State. Because Kevon Looney, once again, was solid for Golden State. But if you look at Boston, they were getting solid contributions from Daniel Tice and Robert Williams. They blocked multiple shots in game two. And that really kind of set the tone in the first half. Just both defenses with Boston and Golden State were just phenomenal. A lot of the shots early on were extremely contested, and points were very hard to come by. So a lot of the game, it was mostly trying to drive into the paint, possibly get to the free throw line, maybe try to get a layup. But really, you look at the first half and you go to the third quarter. The third quarter is where everything completely flipped, and it flipped in favor of Golden State. I mean, if you look at the box score, Golden State had a 35-14 quarter against Boston. I mean, you're talking about a 21-point differential in the third quarter alone. I mean, this is just Golden State's thing for some reason. They just make great halftime adjustments and they absolutely dominate that quarter. They just essentially make the fourth quarter relatively pedestrian. And I look at the third quarter specifically, Steph was special. Steph was getting great pick and rolls at the top of the key, was able to knock down a couple 3-point shots. Jordan Poole at the end of the third quarter was just absolutely dynamite. Like I said earlier, him knocking down that 40-foot 3-pointer at the end of the third quarter. I mean, it really just kind of clinched the game at that point. Golden State was up 20 points to begin with at that point, and that just extended the lead even more so. And you combine that with the fact that Boston just could not buy a bucket in the third quarter, no matter who it was from. That really just went to show the testament and really the championship pedigree that Golden State has been able to maintain for the last 7 to 8 years. It really kind of showed in this game too. And then really to kick it over to Boston, Boston just did not get the contributions from some of the role players like they did in game one. Al Horford was a beast in game one, was able to knock down shots very consistently, but in game two, dropped 2 points. We were talking about this a couple days ago. The one thing that Boston's going to have to get from him, specifically in reference to Al Horford, is he has to be more consistent, because there are games where he'll drop 20, 25 points and look like a god out there sometimes. And then he'll have nights like this where he goes out and scores 2 points. You can't have that if you're Boston moving forward. He's at least got to drop 10 to 15 consistently. And then you look at the rest of the roster. I mean, I'm looking at Derek White. Granted, he did knock down some pretty big shots early on for Boston, but only scored 12 points. Like Kevin said earlier, Marcus Smart with 2 points, Robert Williams with 2 points. I mean, these are difference makers for Boston. I mean, these guys are going to have to be extremely pivotal moving forward if Boston's going to win the NBA Finals this season. And with points performance like this, you're not going to be able to get that, because Golden State made great defensive adjustments, and it really kind of showed because Marcus Smart, Al Horford, and Robert Williams, the fact that they combined for 6 points between the three of them, that's atrocious. Granted, I know Jason went out and did his thing, but Jason had a minus 36 in his plus minus, which is the worst in his career at this point in the regular season and in the playoffs. So, if you're looking at Boston right now, look, you stole one in Golden State on the road in game one. So it's 1-1. It's a pretty advantageous situation for the Celtics moving forward. They do have the next two home games. Could they possibly win both of them? Yeah, potentially. But Golden State definitely got the momentum back on their side. So it's going to be pivotal for both teams to try to either continue their play from game two, specifically in reference to Golden State. And then Boston just has to be able to knock down more shots consistently. So they have to get better production from Robert Williams, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Al Horford. Like, all these guys have to step up in a pretty big way if they're going to be successful back in Boston. But great performance from Golden State in game two. And with the series at 1-1 apiece, this is going to be a fun series the way that I see it. Both teams are great defensively. Golden State really showed that in game two. But we'll see what happens with game three, because Boston, I think, is going to find a way to bounce back, and we'll see if Golden State can counteract that.